Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing some Battlefield 3, playing some Conquest Domination on scrap metal. And today guys, I've got some gameplay for you of me running amok as a recon, doing a bit of aggressive recon, doing some work with the M417. All you're going to be seeing me do really is get toe-to-toe with people with this thing. If you are at all curious to how to use the M417 once you unlocked it, all you need to do is get it set up for hipfire. This thing is a beast when you hipfire it. And what you will see me do is often just run up to a dude and let fly with the trigger finger. It is an incredible weapon, and once you kind of get used to its quirks and how you can aim it down sight to get some accuracy there as well, you can become a very, very dangerous person. The thing I find curious with aggressive recon is everyone seems to think, in general, that you've got to do it with a bolt action. Well, no, not necessarily. You will be seeing, as it so happens next week, some more aggressive recon from me using the L96. But to be honest, aggressive recon can be done with an SMG, a shotgun, or what I call a battle rifle like the M417. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Finally I got a gameplay for you on scrap metal. This is actually my favourite map from the Close Quarters DLC. But we just haven't been able to get many decent games on it. Anyway, so that's the gameplay. What I actually want to discuss though today is something a little bit interesting, but I think it's the right time to do it. And this is something I'd be really interested to know your sort of thoughts on as well. So basically, Battlefield 3 has been out for many months now, coming up 9-10 months, something like that, and I think it's about time to have a look at what the game has done well, what it's done badly, and what it needs to improve on for the next game. Battlefield 4 has been confirmed, announced. If you buy the next Medal of Honor, you'll get access to the beta, and more than likely it'll be a similar deal to how Battlefield 3's beta was when you bought the, if you're the reboot of Medal of Honor. So I think it would be a good time to think about what has worked, what hasn't, and today I'm going to be talking about that, basically, from my opinion. Now, what I will frame all this with is that I think Battlefield 3 has got 90% of a first-person shooter done properly, to a T. The way the game plays itself, the fact that, there has to be some team play. Personally, I do prefer a team play type first-person shooter, so obviously Battlefield, well, hey, right up my street. And just in general, just the way the weapons work, how you have to use them, I think it's all spot on. Having said that, there are a few things I'd like changed, personally. And again, this is where I'd love to know your thoughts on this as well. Because it's all well and good to sort of say this to ourselves or to our friends, but actually get this out into a community, if you will, to be discussed, deliberated, aggregated, whatever, that can be actually very, very useful. Game companies, that you might not think it, but they actually do have a hard time trying to balance pace and all the rest of game. And if someone from DICE, although how unlikely it will ever be, would stumble across this, and we've got some nice cooperative, constructive feedback, I think that'd be very valuable. So I just want to get my thoughts out there, and I'd love to know yours as well, so feel free to leave it down in the comments below. Anyway, so basically I have like 3 or 4 points I really want to talk about, and the first thing which I really do think needs addressing, and in fact if it could be addressed in Battlefield 3 via a patch, I think that would be, well, appreciated anyway from my perspective. And basically the problem I have mainly these days with Battlefield 3, other than butthurt admins, but that's something which really you can't really patch, is bunny hopping. And perhaps you can see why I was trying to keep the chain of words going. God, my grammar's flying out the window here. Bunny hopping for me is starting to ruin the game, and as you just saw there, bunny hopping just got that guy to a point where I couldn't physically hit him. The netcode and everything else, which I'll be talking about in a minute, just wasn't quite there, and well, basically I died because the guy was jumping around. Now, bunny hopping's nothing new, and in fact I found a very interesting video on YouTube actually talking about like the evolution of bunny hopping, how it was something originally which was just included by mistake, and actually it's grown into a proper skill. And I have no problem with the concept of bunny hopping itself, but the problem is that in Battlefield 3 it's rewarded to the point that if you don't do it, you're at a serious disadvantage. If you consistently jump, you will go faster than someone sprinting. If you obviously jump, that obviously makes you a harder target to hit. Thus, what do you get? Well, a combination of you being able to move very quickly, you're very hard to hit, and in a first-person shooter that's a bit of an issue, I think you might agree. And the thing which, when you combine that with the chaps who use the very fast, fully automatic weapons along with the fully automatic pistols, you have guys who basically will jump up to you, spray you down, then run away. You never get a real chance to engage them, which sucks at the end of the day. And really, the one thing I'd say about it, I have no problem with bunny hopping being in the game. It's something that I think pretty much everyone does once they realise what it can do for them in terms of, oh no, I'm being shot, let me get to cover quickly, whatever else. But personally, I think there needs to be some sort of modifier or something which reflects the fact that you have been jumping around a lot or something. You know, if this were reality, which this is of course not, you know, if you were jumping with a weapon and all the equipment, you first of all wouldn't be able to jump too far, but you'd be tired. You wouldn't be able to shoot straight, say, or you wouldn't be able to aim well. So personally, I'd like to see something along the lines of, if you were bunny hopping, you know, to get somewhere, or just in general, if you jump, you become a little bit more inaccurate for a second or two until you sort of get back your composure almost. There's something to, you know, discourage constant bunny hopping just for the sake of it, but to make it a actual, you know, worthwhile thing to do in a given situation. You know, if you're in the scenario of someone's about to kill you, you can try and bunny hop. That'll get you out of harm's way perhaps, but by doing that you might let them have the kill later on, because you might be able to get the jump on you or something. Who knows, I'm just putting it out there. But anyway, bunny hopping for me is starting to really, you know, detract from the actual first-person shooting element of the game, and I think it's perhaps something which needs to be looked at. Now the next thing I think needs to have a serious look at for Battlefield 4 basically is the netcode, and it's something I mentioned before, or just a second ago I should say. Basically the netcode, and I won't go into sort of all the boring explanation of what it is, how you produce it and all the rest, is basically the program code which handles how information about the game is passed around all the people playing it. So, you know, you're playing the game, you fire a bullet, that information is sent to the server. In this case it's a dedicated server setup, so you have a server in the middle, and that sends all the information round. The problem is in Battlefield 3's case that network code, it's good, but it needs work. There are certainly scenarios and situations where you have shot someone and, you know, there hasn't been a hit marker, say, or you've been running somewhere and, you know, just off the top of my head, we've seen situations of a guy vaulting over a wall, and the animation and where he actually is doesn't line up, so you'll see him like at the edge of the wall, and a second later he'll just have disappeared because he has vaulted the wall. Things like that I think really do need to be looked at. It's a little thing, but you know, Battlefield 3 on the whole, in terms of the netcode, it's functional, it's good, it's fine, but really you want that, you know, top polished, you know, performance, I don't know, to you know, really show that this is a thing of quality. Don't get me wrong, Battlefield 3's, you know, netcode is good, it's functional, I've said that, but certainly I would hope for something a little bit better next time round. You know, end of the day, what we're trying to fight here is lag, and as I've talked about before, lag will always exist, you can't completely eradicate it, but you can do a lot to try and reduce its effect. And certainly the netcode as it stands at the moment, people are almost playing to abuse it even sometimes. You know, the bunny hopping, for example, you saw just the way things were happening, it couldn't quite keep up and my shots weren't counted. That's the way it goes. Anyway, so the network code needs a bit of a tweak, either, you know, rewriting a bit or just tweaking so it's a little smoother, more consistent, and just works a bit better all round, I guess. I'll say that. Now the next thing really I want to say is actually a little bit surprising, actually, given that I'm a Battlefield console player, but I think that more, I don't know, optimization focus should be given to each platform. Now, a lot of guys on the PC side of Battlefield, you know, I know guys, for example, personally, who still think it's, you know, a crime that Battlefield isn't just on PC these days. You can get into a whole argument about games being on console and PC, we won't go there today, but I do think it's a bit strange that for a PC original game, let's say, that there are features and things missing which could have been brought forward. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I do find it strange that there's almost like a lack of optimization for the PC. Things like, for example, there are things in the user interface which come to mind. So when I played Battlefield 2, what you could do when you were like about to spawn, you could click on the map, click on the flag you'd like to spawn at, and that was great because obviously that's very intuitive, works very nicely, etc. You can't do that in Battlefield 3. It's strange things like that where I kind of go, that's a bit curious, I wonder why they didn't do that kind of thing. Really, just a little bit of optimization for each platform, depending on the platform, of course. Now, some of this optimization has to be done. For example, consoles, we can only have 24 people per room. That means obviously the maps and things have to be, optimized for us. We don't have, for example, the A flag at the antenna on Caspian, in Conquest, for example, that stuff like that. But there's some, usability tweaks for each system, depending on, obviously, the system, I think wouldn't go amiss. So yeah, that's another thing I'd say. Get a little more focus, perhaps, for the PC guys, because it's much like, actually, well, now I come to think of it, like Formula 1, the Formula 1 games, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of Formula 1 and I do play the games. The thing with the Formula 1 games is they're fantastic games. You can tell, the attention to detail, expertly crafted, all the rest, but the racing, the foundations of the game, the actual racing, there's a little left to be desired, and I think it's the same case here with Battlefield and the guys who play it on PC, that there has been a little bit of focus taken away, and all the guys are seeing are these little annoying little things which could be added in theory, and it kind of distracts them from the actually fantastic game on the top. So yeah, I guess I'd say a little bit of optimization, I don't know, a little bit of time for the PC guys. As a console player, that's what I would like to see, and you might kind of go, well, why? Well, if it keeps people happy, first of all, hooray, I'm not particularly a massive fan of everyone being miserable, but also it means that more people can enjoy the game, and they'll just be in general a little bit less whining and things, which gives people time to focus on the important stuff. Stuff like, for example, people glitching in this spot, report it to developers, people voicing their opinions, etc., and spamming people's time up with daft stuff, I don't know. So yeah, some I don't know, refinements, a little bit of PC focus, I think wouldn't go amiss either. One thing which I would like to change as well, though, now I come to think of it, is actually something to do with the weapon damage. And as I, have said before, I do think it's absolutely spot on in terms of, shotguns only work at close range, pistols work effectively at close range, not particularly at long range, all that kind of stuff. I do think it's spot on. However, there are a few circumstances where I kind of go, I'm not particularly keen on the way this has been done. And again, this is something actually I'd like to know from you guys what you think. So, the thing I'm thinking of in particular here is sometimes you'll fire a weapon, say like a sniper rifle or a large caliber round firing weapon, and you won't kill in one shot at point blank or something like that unless it's a headshot, or you will fire like a shot into someone's head and it won't kill instantly. There are some occasions where I think, hold on, that is not so good. So what I'm more thinking of here, for example, is I think that any shot to the head should be a one-shot headshot. Things like, the big caliber rounds should kill at point blank, irrespective of where the round hits and all the rest. It's a bit of a tricky balancing act to do this stuff, though, because obviously that might make the game incredibly unbalanced in favour of some of the bigger weapons. But personally, it's something I'd like to see. I do prefer the more realistic, I guess, side of Battlefield. In that terms, this isn't a simulator or anything like that, but at the same time, you do like, obviously, to have a little bit of realism here and there. I mean, for instance, you do have the bullet drop with the sniper rifles and stuff. It's a lovely little touch. I think that in that case, having some just one-shot headshots with all weapons, that kind of thing, might just add a little bit more. I don't know. That's just me. Another thing I want to quickly mention is the spawn invulnerability. So in concept, it's a great idea. Well, in concept, the sort of notion of being able to spawn on a squad mate is a great idea. Kind of should in theory eliminate spawn camping from like a set base. The problem is, though, that with the spawn invulnerability as it is at the moment, I think it's a little much. I don't know. So the thing with the spawn invulnerability is it's there because in the early versions of Battlefield 3 you had that fade in from black, and that took a little while. And obviously your character's there is vulnerable. That's obviously not good. If you get shot and you can't actually see yet, that's not particularly good fun. The thing with the game as it stands now is that time has been reduced greatly. And when you spawn, as long as you don't fire or move, you can look around, but as long as you don't fire or move, you are invulnerable for 2 seconds. Now, you may recall a second ago I was on the roof and the guy was stood there, and I couldn't tell if that was actually, someone playing, or if they'd been killed, or if what they were doing. I hesitated and I got killed because of it. And even if I had shot him, the rounds wouldn't have counted. Personally, I think that if you spawn on a squad mate, you should only get partial spawn protection. perhaps only 1 second. But say if you spawn a flag or something like that, you should get 2 seconds, say. So I don't know, area-dependent spawn protection I think perhaps would be a nice thing to see. So yeah, just a kind of frustration there, and certainly I know I've been in situations where I have engaged someone first, and just because they have been, they have just spawned, they have won the firefight, because they do have that protection, and they work with that, so I digress. So location-based spawn protection, perhaps something to think about as well. Now the final thing I want to talk about is to do with the kits. Battlefield is a class-based shooter as well, and obviously the classes are quite important. Now the thing with the classes as they are at the moment, really, in my opinion, you guys might have different opinions, I'd love to know that, but basically I see that 2 kits can play Battlefield in any circumstance and do well, and 2 can't, because they rely on others to exploit them, let's say. So the 2 kits which require other people to actually be effective are the Recon and the Support. And I say these 2 for 2 reasons. You know, you can play Recon, be the perfect Recon soldier, spot everything, do the rest, but if no one acts on the actual information, you get no points. As a support, you have your light machine gun and your ammunition and everything else. You chuck the ammo bags and whatever else down, but people still might not use it. That kind of thing. Well, at that point you might go, well, therefore you're singling out the engineer and the assault as being kits which are fine. Well, the assault has the same problem. They can chuck down the health pack and the rest. Very true, very true. But, you know, the assault, for instance, can use the defib paddles on perhaps guys who don't want it, you know, and still get points for that. They kind of have the onus, the ability to get their own points, if you will. I don't know, I think what is needed for the support and the Recon is some sort of sweetener to make them a bit more effective. I don't know. It's just a, you know, certainly, you know, it's hard to get points as a Recon without doing crazy long headshots. It's hard to play support at times with a light machine gun, which is pretty inaccurate unless you've got a bipod or well-entrenched setup, whatever, and you've got no one picking up your ammunition. You know, it's kind of a sucky situation for both. As to what you could do to make the situation sweeter, to be honest, I really don't know. But certainly I think a little bit of a bonus, not necessarily a buff, but a bonus to those 2 kits as they are at the minute, would certainly put those straight back, you know, level and par with the engineer and the assault, who at the minute can do very well just on their own. Now the final thing I would want to see in Battlefield 4 for the multiplayer, this is multiplayer specific, and to be honest most of this has been multiplayer specific, but never mind, is tutorials. In-game tutorials to explain to all players, doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not, what you need to be doing out on the battlefield. The one thing which has frustrated me a lot is Battlefield 3, obviously, competing with Call of Duty has made the players to try and grab the attention of some Call of Duty players. And they'll come across, they might be the world's best Call of Duty player, but that doesn't mean they can necessarily play Battlefield well. So you'll get a load of guys just not playing, you know, playing the objective, playing their roles, whatever it may be, and you will lose games, and that's obviously very, very frustrating. If there was like a boot camp, a tutorial showing them the roles, the kits, what you need to do, and I don't know, even if you had to graduate from it to go online, I think that would be fantastic, because that would make the game immediately a lot more competitive, a lot more, I don't know, almost focused, because everyone should in theory know what they need to do. And if you're a new player, obviously that helps because it shows you exactly what you need to do. And if you're an old player, you should ace it and do it quickly enough anyway, so there should be no complaints. Well, in theory, I guess, anyway. So that, I think, wraps it up. Don't get me wrong, Battlefield 3 is the best first-person shooter I have ever played. It is a very, very rounded, enjoyable experience when everything works, but unfortunately, there are niggly little things which, well, don't work. I mean, you know, you could call out the glitches and bugs and everything else. You always have glitches and bugs in software. That's just part of the reality of it all. But certainly there are some things which DICE and EA certainly can do. And I think as a community, if we can help them with that, I don't see why we should say no, really. Because at the end of the day, we will get a great game as a result. And, you know, EA, you've got DICE, the guys who actually make these games, they're gamers as well. They want to, you know, have a good game to play as well at the end of the day. So that's been my 2 cents, really. So let me just think back. You got bunny hopping, you got spawn protection, class changes. Blimey, I've forgotten already. Plenty, you know, a series of things anyway, which I think perhaps would need looking at for the next Battlefield game. And as I said right at the start, guys, I would love to know your opinions on all this sort of stuff as well. Battlefield is a great series, and I would hate to see it well, not fail, but flounder, just because as a community we weren't vocal enough in saying what we liked and what we disliked. And by getting this stuff out there, you can start the discussion, and hopefully when Battlefield 4 rolls around and it's beta in the near future, we'll be able to look back and say, hey, we did something for that. Anyway, I'll digress. Guys, I'd love to know your opinions. I genuinely mean that. And keep an eye out next week for some L96 aggressive recon with perhaps a little discussion about that. We'll see what happens. But anyway, as always, guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you could like, dislike this video, whatever you believe it deserves, that would be much appreciated. If you had any views on anything at all, including stuff I haven't even mentioned, by all means, please do feel free to leave it down in the comments below. If you are new to my videos, you can always subscribe to see more from me, including that L96 video next week. But again, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I've been Chuggy, and I'll see you next time out on Battlefield.